Hello and welcome. It's a common myth, especially in leftist and academic circles, that pre-1959 Cuba was nothing more than an American colony, filled with vice and controlled by foreign money. But that's false, and deeply insulting to the proud, sovereign Cuban Republic that existed before communism. From 1902 to 1959, Cuba was an independent republic. It had its own constitution, Congress, embassies, press, and universities. It participated in both world wars, joined the League of Nations and the UN, and passed one of Latin America's most advanced constitutions in 1940. Yes, Cuba was deeply influenced by the United States, geographically, economically, and culturally. But so were Canada, Mexico, and most of the Caribbean. Influence is not control, and partnership is not colonialism. Cuba's 90-mile proximity to Florida naturally fostered strong ties in trade, migration, and culture. But proximity does not mean possession. Trade and tourism flowed both ways, just like culture. After all, was the U.S. a Cuban colony because Desi Arnaz was a national star on I Love Lucy? Did Bacardi's presence in the U.S. mean Havana ruled America's liquor culture? Was Miami colonized by Cuba because of exile success? Of course not. Cultural exchange does not mean subjugation. Economically, U.S. investment in Cuba was large, but so was Cuban investment. Major brands like Bacardi, H. Upmann, and Partagas were Cuban-founded. Cuban doctors, bankers, architects, and entrepreneurs helped lead the region in development and prosperity. Havana's Capitolio, its booming skyline, and its elegant hospitals were Cuban achievements, not American imports. One of the most damaging lies is that Cuba was a whorehouse for Americans. This was propaganda, pushed by Castro and the Soviets, to degrade the memory of the old republic. Yes, Havana had nightlife, like Paris, New York, or Buenos Aires. Yes, prostitution existed, as it did everywhere. But it wasn't central to Cuban life. And it wasn't American tourists who invented it. Much of the flirtatious, perfumed culture was French in origin, as reflected in the Cuban saying, "You smell like a French prostitute." Cuban women, then as now, were proud, elegant, educated, and strong. In modern-day Miami, the exile heart of Cuba, Cuban women are doctors, teachers, business owners, a living rebuttal to the false image of pre-revolutionary degradation. Ironically, today's communist Cuba is where prostitution is most widespread, not because of capitalism, but because of desperation. Economic collapse under the regime has led to a sex tourism market, with foreigners visiting for what they cynically call romance. This is more like post-World War II Europe, where women traded stockings for survival. Cuba's national flag, red triangle, white star, and stripes, was designed in New York in 1849. It symbolized liberation and democratic ideals, not surrender. To call pre-Castro Cuba a colony is to erase the truth. It ignores the accomplishments of Cuban society, and worst of all, it justifies tyranny by pretending Castro's dictatorship was a rescue. Cuba was never a colony. It was a rising republic, independent, admired, and betrayed. It's time to reclaim that truth, not for nostalgia, but for justice.